Hello, Marcus.
Hello, Raymondo.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, there's one thing I've always wondered. You love Star Wars, you love the movies, you love the video games, you love a lot of the television shows. Obviously,
Uh-huh.
love the toys. I see several in the background,
Several thousand.
several thousand.
I love the Monopoly.
You love the Star Wars Monopoly. What's not to love? But you're not into the Star Wars cartoons. Why is that?
That's a very good question.
Yes.
Um, I tried watching The Bad Batch. Didn't really appeal to me. I think the problem was when the first set of Star Wars cartoons, which I think was Clone Wars,
Yes.
came out. It was like Disney Channel, Disney XD, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't readily available.
Uh
And when was it released? Mid 2000s?
yeah, it was around the prequel time. So
Okay, so early 2000s. So I was getting drunk and having a lot of sex then.
okay,
To be
that's a
honest with
good.
you,
Okay,
I was freshly divorced. I had just moved to Los Angeles. I was young, free, and single, and I was ready to hingle, as they say. No, it's just one of those things that I remember where I was living. I didn't have access to proper cable. All you could do is like get like shitty basic cable. And if you
right.
weren't allowed to install a satellite dish, so you couldn't
Oh,
get direct TV or even Dish Network. So it was a very sad time. So I made up for it by going out a lot, drinking a lot, smoking a lot, and doing the beast with two backs, as you're supposed to do when you're early to mid 30s if you're single. I mean, this was before I met my now wife, um, and honestly, I just didn't have time for it. And then there were people who were raving about it at the place where I worked, but I was too busy playing WoW. I was too busy playing PlayStation games and Xbox games, and just like I said, working a lot, traveling a lot, and it
right.
just never really came into my radar. Um, I can see how a lot of people got into it. I can see how a lot of people, because I wasn't on the games media side. I was a PR guy. I was working, 10 to 12 hours a day, you know, most most times. And I know it's like, oh, work involves taking journalists out, getting them drunk. Yeah, well, especially if you can't stand some of the people you're taking out. Present company accepted. Of course, I've always loved hanging out with you. But it's just one of those things that I knew it was in the cultural zeitgeist, but it felt, especially as it was focused, like I said, Disney XD, Disney Channel,
Right.
that to me had so many negative connotations as a guy in my early 30s. I wasn't going to stay home and watch that stuff or search for a Blu-ray to rent or a DVD because this was pre-streaming.
Yeah.
And so by the time you had the Clone Wars, that came all the way through. And what was the other one?
Rebels.
Rebels. And plus, I'll be totally honest with you, not a big fan of that animation style. It
Okay.
just leaves me cold. I mean, I grew up on Saturday morning TV where and it's ironic. I am so looking forward to the reboot of X-Men 1990,
Hmm.
the Saturday morning cartoon. And even
97.
though,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I loved that, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, and before that is Inspector Gadget, Battle for the Planets.
Oh,
Yeah, a whole slew of stuff that I'd watched all the way through. It's Amazing Spider-Man, and those I found it easier to get into. And because at the end of the day, they are even the Star Trek animated series that ran for a couple of years with the OG Star Trek cast. I watched and got into that. Um, but I think it's a combination of timing, the animation style, and the fact that it was dealing with a whole bunch of characters that were not new to me. They were, they were new to me. They're not familiar to me. And it was it was pre this or pre that. And I'd also been, burnt by the prequel trilogy, for God's sake.
That is fair.
It took a long time to get over that. And I mean, The Force Awakens helped me get over that to a certain degree. And then, the Rise of Skywalker. That was The Last Jedi. I enjoyed The Last Jedi. And then The Rise of Skywalker just ruined that and ruined everything again. But
Fair.
Mandalorian and Andor in particular have done a lot to bring me back to that and get me interested and excited. Obi-Wan,
Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett, not so much. And you know what? You know what's interesting? Solo is a movie I rewatched recently, so I've got a digital copy. And that is something that I actually think is underappreciated for a lot of what it does. I think it has a lot of strong points. I think it was just a missed opportunity, but it's easy to get into stuff when you know who you're dealing with, who the character,
right,
got the familiarity. It's easy to drop into an animated series when it's like, oh, okay, so this, oh look, there's a character I recognize, or there's a couple of characters I recognize them, I know from XYZ and I enjoy.
You said Z, not Zed.
Well, I've been here for 24 years, for Christ's sake. I picked up the lingo. I mean, I've also been known to say aluminum and trash can instead of aluminium.
Oh, bin. Yeah.
So
I totally understand. I totally understand the negative connotation an adult might have about Disney XD, and totally makes sense that as a single guy in your 30s at the time, that drinking and going out on dates was more interesting for you. But I am telling you that
hanging out with my friends, hanging out
sure.
with people like you
right,
and Paul, and I wonder what Paul's up to right now. I'm sure he'd love this conversation.
You know what? I want to convince you to watch Clone Wars and especially Rebels, but I think I'm going to need some help. So help me, Paul Semel. You're my only hope.
Oh my! It's a sneak attack. It's a trap. It's a fucking trap, I tell you.
It's a trap.
Turn on the camera.
Wait.
What if I was doing something other than...
You think this camera's off ever? It's on 24/7, buddy.
Yeah, always watching you, Paul.
We see what's going on.
Yes, we know you love
take matters into my own hands.
No, you haven't got the microscope out, so we know we're okay.
Oh,
the old ones are the best, and let's face it, you don't get much.
Yeah. Look, we all know what they say about Jewish guys.
You have space lasers?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
You should have been a doctor, and you disappoint your mum.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm married to a Jewish woman.
Why are you bothering me on a perfectly good Sunday afternoon?
Because I know you're a big fan of Clone Wars and Rebels, and you're also enjoying Bad Batch as well. And I need some ammo. Marcus is very hard to convince. Once he has an opinion, he sticks to it. But I think it's well worth trying to convince him to watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Maybe it'll work, maybe not. But the effort must be made. And you're one of the biggest Star Wars fans I know. So let us try to convince him, give him reasons why he should watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Now,
so hang on, which one is the longer running of the two?
Clone Wars is the long one. Rebels had 4 seasons. Is that right?
Yeah. And how many seasons does Clone Wars have?
Ooh,
7, but like the 6th was sort of
because it got canceled and then uncanceled.
And how many episodes a season?
That's a lot.
24.
So there's 7 seasons.
Yeah.
The last season was 12. The others were.
Because look, if you're going to come at me with information here, because I'm not going to commit to watching something that involves 15, 16 hours of my life per season.
Well, they're 20 minutes each. I mean,
and you don't have to watch the whole thing, but there are certain things that I think are well worth watching.
I should watch this, but I don't have to watch them all.
No, I will be.
I don't agree. I don't even agree with
guide for me. You
I
have a
will.
viewer's breakdown. Watch this one. Don't watch that one. Watch this one.
I would advise you to skip the made-for-TV movie that started it all. I don't think it's great. I think a lot of the content after it is much better. But Clone Wars does the full seasons had 22 episodes. The last one had 12. But there is some filler. I'm not going to, pretend there's not. But there's also some of the best Star Wars storytelling. And for me, Rebels is my favorite Star Wars anything since the original trilogy. I really think it's that good. Now, let us talk about what the cartoons do for existing characters, Paul. I mean,
Right.
Let's start with Anakin. That's a big one.
Well, yeah, I mean that's like the biggest one. The Clone Wars, like as sad as it is what happens to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, it gets even more poignant when you see what happens to him in the Clone Wars cartoon.
So
it literally
where do the Clone Wars come
gap.
in? Do they come in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith?
It literally begins right after Attack of the Clones and leads right into.
Okay, now I have a jumping off point. Now you're beginning to sell it to me. Now it's making a little bit more as opposed to, well, does it start and end with, Order 99 and blah, 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 blah. And
it actually ends in Order 66.
66. 99
66,
is
right?
actually 99 is a British ice cream. There's a soft scoop ice cream with a Cadbury flake in it.
Oh shit! I would totally give me a Order 99 right now.
Oh, I'm telling you,
I love that.
99 was such a thing when I was a kid. It's the ice cream cone with a Mr. Whippy.
So it's soft serve,
and then a Cadbury's flake in it at an angle. Google a flake 99.
That's fucking genius. I love flake.
It's Star Wars. Let's talk about ice cream.
Yeah. I will try.
We should do a whole candy thing. I'm actually I'm just finishing up my British order, my British food order. I order from a website called britishcornershop.co.uk.
Let's do that. I'm totally
every 3 months I get my my supply box in. The last one came in October. That was all my Christmas treats. And now I'm getting my Easter eggs because you can't do Easter eggs in this country to save your fucking lives.
Hey, I love my Cadbury creme eggs.
Oh, no, we're not talking about cream eggs. We're talking about big
eggs.
We're talking about the big ones. This is the baller one. Anyway, so go back to see. This is how you guys are not very good at selling this because I am just diverting you. I'm using every tactic to basically say I'm not going to watch this stuff.
Oh, you only think you are. I'm the one who's going to edit it later, so I can make this look. However I want.
I'm going to watch this show. Yeah,
but you were talking about Anakin.
To go back to what we were saying, like it picks up at the end of Attack of the Clones and carries through to Revenge of the Sith, and is all what happens in the war. And so you see all this stuff with Anakin. You see why he was considered such a great Jedi and all this other stuff. And you also see him falling in love with Padme and all of that stuff. And so when you get to the end of Revenge of the Sith, it hits that much harder. And he's snoring. I thought he was about to sneeze. So that's I think what Clone Wars does, and it also fills in more about that version of Obi-Wan as well. Yeah. And you see a bit of Mace Windu in there, and you see the Emperor in there, and like a lot of it just fills out a lot of stuff that like you can kind of infer, but like here's like a way of seeing it all.
Right. It highlights how much of a hero Anakin was and how he was the chosen one to so many. So it makes his fall all the more tragic. On the flip side of that, on the dark side, they do so much stuff with Maul. And in the movies, he's not much of a character. He looks cool. He could do some cool flippy shit. And
hang on, Darth Maul's dead.
No, he is not, sir. You will find out why if you watch these cartoons.
Is that why he appears at the end of Solo?
That is absolutely why.
They put him on like one of those floaty things with like the probe that looks like a probe droid.
He was on you joke, but he was actually like that for a bit, where he had like a crab crawlery thing before getting cybernetic legs. Spoiler alert, sorry. My bad.
Ministry of Silly Walks.
No, but they make Maul so much more interesting. I mean, what did he have, like 10 words in the movie?
Well, that's because Ray Park can't act his way out of a paper bag. They even had to dub his voice.
Yeah. Well,
because it would have been
a high pitch. Hello, I'm Darth Maul.
The time is nigh, so we'll have our revenge.
Yes.
No offense to Ray Park, who can obviously kick all our asses. So apologies there. It was Ray's point. It was this Ray's fault, not my fault. There you go. Okay, so all right. So basically, you're basically saying that one of the weakest sections of the Star Wars movies, the gap between the last two prequel movies, are going to be filled out by 7 seasons.
Yes.
Of this. Okay, so let's just put this one possibly has some interest for me.
Sure.
The big issue I have is the fucking animation style. Really can't stand it. It reminds me of Captain Planet and the fucking Planeteers from back in the day. Or Reboot, that other really horrible animation series from the early 90s. That to me, I just don't like it. But go on.
What I was going to say is I kind of had an issue with it too when it started, because I was a big fan of the previous Clone Wars cartoon that was done by the guy who does Gendy Tartakovsky, I think it's pronounced. He does a cartoon called Primal, and it was much more stylized. And so at first I was kind of like iffy about it, but after you watch it and you get into the stories, you're not going to be I don't think you're going to be as bothered by the look of the characters.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say at least it's not manga, because honestly, that style, I'd just be clawing my eyes out, because I just can't with that anymore. The anime style is just with the big eyes and the. I see what you mean. I can see Darth Vader going.
I see what you mean, but if I could use this as an example, like the animation style of Into the Spider-Verse, the first few minutes I wasn't really enjoying it, but then as I got more into it, I didn't really think anything of it.
But Into the Spider-Verse is, I mean, it's got some sort of normalcy about it. I think it's got the way that the colors work and the characters work. And even when you're looking at these, like Bing, Bow, Pop, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, when you're looking at, and again, we haven't had a Miles Morales, a real live action Miles Morales, if you will.
Right.
So it fits in with a comic book style. If the Star Wars ones had been more that style, perhaps that might be more attractive to me, because they could have been more like the comic book style. And don't forget, I mean, the last time I really, when these came out, the only other time I'd seen a Star Wars cartoon had been when Boba Fett was introduced in that cartoon in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Right.
Back in 1978, 79, whenever that was.
So big gap.
Big gap. Huge gap.
2008 to 78. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, you didn't miss anything along the way. The Droids cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, I the Droids thing has popped up on Disney Plus. I mean, thankfully, all this stuff is easily accessible on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, so, that's a big game changer.
All right, so we're going to put that one. We're going to pin in that one.
Are we going to talk about a certain?
Yes, Ahsoka is introduced in Clone Wars, and she is by far my favorite new character, apart from the original trilogy, and I cannot wait for her series. And it's kind of cool because you see her grow up through the course of Clone Wars, and because she's a Padawan in the first episode, and you see her growth not only as a Jedi, but as a person, becoming a hero and a leader. And by the time we get to Rebels, she's just kicking all sorts of ass, and she's really awesome. I know you're a fan of some of the Star Wars books, Marcus. Did you read the initial ones, the like Heir to the Empire and that kind of stuff?
I read Splinter in the Mind's Eye. I read, like I said, I think in our email chain, I read Han Solo's Revenge and Han Solo at Star's End, because I got given those in the early 90s for Christmas by my parents.
Those are fun
They didn't know
ones.
what they were buying, but they were awesome books.
Yeah.
I have Thrawn here. I have what's the other one?
So Thrawn is heir to the Empire, and
Well,
they use Thrawn in.
Heir to the Empire was also, wasn't Heir to the Empire a game?
Am I remembering wrong, Paul? Check me on this.
I don't remember there being a game, but it could be. But that's the old canon.
That character was first introduced in Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
Yes, but they use him in the cartoons. So I thought that character was so cool when I was first reading about him. So seeing him in cartoons and having a voice actor and everything, I thought was super cool.
Yeah,
because Thrawn's badass.
Okay, so I think I actually read Heir to the Empire back in the day because that was in the 90s.
Yes, 91.
And then I do have Phasma.
Oh, yep.
Which unfortunately has been sitting in my to-read pile for a while, but I should definitely give it a crack. I mean, I think the problem with not reading Phasma is after seeing what was done with Boba Fett and what was done with Darth Maul, and to see Phasma hyped as this character that you then barely see for 3 movies before she tumbles down into a bunch of fucking flames.
Into trash. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole getting invested in a character is, that looks really cool and then proceeds to disappoint us is also, the something that Star Wars is notorious for.
Right.
So, okay. So Clone Wars, let's take a pin and put Clone Wars to one side, because Clone Wars, I could see myself watching the couple of episodes, see if I get into it because of how it works between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. I would just say, Marcus, that if you do that, don't quit after like the second episode.
Okay.
Maybe because it definitely starts off very slow.
Okay.
It does take time to find its legs.
Yeah. You know what? I'll give it 3 hours. I'll watch 3 hours worth of episodes.
All right.
That's what I give.
That initial movie, which isn't really a movie. Because one of the things they did with Clone Wars, and these with Rebels too, is a lot of times they would do like 3 episodes would be like one story.
Right.
And so what they wound up doing is they took the first 3 episodes and just sort of cut it into one movie.
Which is actually sensible. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. So basically, I have this rule of thumb. I will give any TV show 3 hours.
Okay.
If by the 3rd episode you haven't sucked me in, I'm out. Same with a video game. But after the 3-hour mark, I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck I'm doing, I'm uninstalling you and walking away. That's just the way it is. Look, I mean, life is short. Mine perhaps a little shorter than most. So, I want to make sure that I'm using my time wisely. Plus, I'll be honest with you, I'm on a big retro TV kick right now.
Knight Rider? What are you watching?
Well, Automan.
Oh, Automan was awesome.
Street Hawk.
Wow.
I've already done Knight Rider, and including the Knight Rider 2000, which was a horrible, horrible TV show.
No.
Buck Rogers in the 21st Century.
Aaron Gray, who was a hottie.
Yeah, that only ran for 2 seasons.
Really?
Yeah, there's 2 seasons, and it got cancelled. OG Galactica.
Okay.
And then Galactica, was it the
1980?
Yeah, which was hysterical. But yeah, I'm sort of like going on to Airwolf. That's another one.
Fair enough. Now, if you give Clone Wars a shot, are you going to do it chronologically, or would you like us to pick out certain arcs?
No, I will go chronologically. I will see. I will treat it the same way I would any TV show. That basically I'll watch it, and if your first 3 hours are kind of crap, you don't get it. You don't get from me the chance to progress. And I'll move on to the next one. And the next one is Rebels. So where does Rebels fit in the timeline, in the canon?
It starts off before Endor, before Rogue One, and obviously before A New Hope. And the idea is it's about a group of rebels, but the rebellion itself hasn't really formed.
Right. It's just
Like-
at the starting stages.
Yeah.
So kind of like
but they're at the
That
popping
Andor
flyers around the
state.
neighborhood and some petitions. They're just taking up a petition, are they? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's a lot of petitions and
Placards and
I mean, there's all these different factions all over the galaxy that want to fight back, but nothing is organized yet.
right.
So this is about a small cell of rebels that really helped start it all. And between Clone Wars and Rebels, there are some overlapping characters. So you will see Maul in both of them, and Maul just really has a fantastic arc. Obviously, Clone Wars has a young adults Obi-Wan, and Rebels has older Obi-Wan, and it's kind of cool how to see that resolve, especially in regards with Maul, because Maul has a big, angry, evil lightsaber hard-on for Obi-Wan, and
we all did.
their resolution I thought was fantastic.
Okay, how many seasons of Rebels are there?
4, and the last one I believe is not a full season as well, and they're all shorter seasons.
Okay, and they're about 20 minutes a pop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's much less filler in Rebels, which I
right.
think it's one of the reasons I prefer it over Clone Wars. And a lot of the new characters play instrumental parts in the TV shows. So you have Bo-Katan, you have Ahsoka, obviously. In the Ahsoka show, you're going to see Hera Syndulla, who's an awesome character, awesome pilot. And who else do we have? Presumably Ezra will be in there as well. And what's her face?
The other Mandalorian lady, the graffiti artist.
Yes. Come on, Paul. You're right there.
I don't remember. Yeah, they go a lot more into the Mandalorian stuff.
Yes.
In that show. Even more than, I guess as much as the Mandalorian does, but
no, even more so far.
Yeah.
So don't forget, we are 5 days off the return of Mando.
Yeah.
Is that are we there already?
Yeah.
First. But apparently the first episode's only clocking in at like 35 minutes.
Oh, what a ripoff.
Slow and low. That's what I've read anyway, but you can always take that with a grain of salt. All right, so like I said, I started watching Bad Batch, and I think I watched like 2 or 3 episodes before I got kind of went so where does that fit in?
Paul, you've watched more.
Bad Batch comes in, it's after Order 66,
right?
So it ties into things at the end of the Clone. The last season of the Clone Wars is set much later, and it ties into that. There's like a episode of Clone Wars, the last season of Clone Wars, where you meet the Bad Batch, and then they go on their things. Bad Batch is all set after Order 66 is enacted, and
okay, so that's after Revenge of the Sith.
After Revenge of the Sith, yeah.
All right. So if I only had the bandwidth to watch one of these series,
I would say Rebels.
I'd say
far.
I'd say Rebels because it's going to tie in more
to the TV
what
shows.
You're going to see on the TV shows, which
there'd be more stuff that I'm familiar with from Mandalorian and indeed Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, and it's just as I said, there's less filler, so I think the storytelling is tighter in general. And I love learning about these new characters and getting attached to them. So that was very cool too.
All right, that's
it'll tie in more,
I will watch
especially
Rebels
with Ahsoka. I think the Ahsoka show is basically going to be like season 5 of Rebels in a weird way.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, because they're bringing in a bunch of the same characters.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to watch Rebels. The other 2 I'm going to put to one side. If I like Rebels and after Mandalorian's finished, I might go and try out Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But I'll try and watch Rebels, and by the next time we record, hopefully I will have seen a couple of episodes, and I will let you know how it's progressing. Is that fair?
That is fair.
That's a good plan.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bad Batch was kind of a weird one to start with, only because if you don't know the background of the clones, you don't really have a reason to care about them. So seeing the clones, seeing, Fives and Captain Rex and what you have a lot more empathy for the clones instead of them being, nameless, faceless stormtroopers.
Mm.
And don't forget, we have 20 days till Ted Lasso. So
yes, that is true. But they launch that weekly, so you have room.
We are going to be doing a Lasso show.
Ted Lasso and Star Wars are really tenuous. I mean, it's like, yeah, you see him in the background of the cantina once.
Yes.
Yeah, but look, I mean, they said that the show, season 2 was their Empire Strikes Back, and it was.
Yeah, that is true.
So there is a more than tenuous link there. Season 2 was Empire with how it ended, and so yeah, we'll see how the Return of the Jedi, if there's any small fluffy people walking around Richmond AFC in the coming weeks. Maybe small Keely gets covered in Brett Goldstein's chest shavings.
Yeah, I feel like there's a joke about Liverpool in there somewhere, but
no, don't joke about Liverpool.
I don't want to get the shit kicked out of me by a soccer hooligan from Essex.
Why would an Essex soccer hooligan kick the shit out of you about Liverpool? I do realize that Liverpool is a totally different part of the country.
I'm just spouting British names.
So, Marcus,
you see that flag over my shoulder, yeah?
Yes, it's a bird. It's a plane.
It's a liver bird, and that's the crest of Liverpool, Paul.
The other team,
definitely, my dear friend. Anyway, all right, I will give Rebels a go. I can't guarantee that I will like it.
No, I think it's great. You're a fan of Rogue One as well.
I do like Rogue One. I think it's one I've rewatched recently.
There are some episodes that flush out Saw Gerrera, so you learn more about him as well.
Okay.
And I appreciate those kinds of things. But really, for me, it's Ahsoka is my favorite non-original trilogy character, and you get to see her, become awesome throughout all of this, but especially in Rebels. Like, so many of the Ahsoka-centric episodes are just brilliant. Some of my favorite Star Wars stories ever. Do you concur, Paul?
I do, but I was just thinking about something I don't want to spoil that is more poignant if you've seen Clone Wars. But I don't want to dissuade Marcus from doing what he's doing.
That's fine. I will look. At the end of the day, I'm going to watch Ashoka when it comes out. Rosario Dawson is, I'd watch her read the fucking phone book. I simply because I think she's a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
And she is just luminous. I had the pleasure of seeing her in person in New York a long time ago when I was there on a press tour, and we were staying in the same hotel, and she just takes your breath away. But anyway, yeah, she's a great actress. She was great in Clerks 2, and so sad that we didn't get to see more of her in Clerks 3.
Yes.
But, yes, she was the only good thing in Men in Black 2. She's generally really pretty much the best thing in so many movies that she's in. So I'm glad to see her get her own series. She was great in as live action Ashoka. So
yeah,
I look forward to it.
That's a great marriage for me. Like a character that I love being portrayed by an actor that I love. So that I'm so excited to see her own series, which should be out Q4.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see.
I mean, they're editing now. They've finished filming a while ago, so we should all be good. So, Paul, do you think we succeeded? Marcus said he'll give Rebels a shot, and really, that was the more important one for me that he try.
Well, look, I'm going to give it. I can't. All I can say is I'm going to give it a try. Yeah,
or do or do not. There is no try.
Can't guarantee I'll like it, but I'll give it a shot, and we'll report back. And then I've got to find something for you guys to watch. I think you two should watch Gavin and Stacey.
I've watched Gavin and Stacey. That's my first James Corden thing that I've seen.
Paul, HBO Max, Gavin and Stacey.
Wait, was there a remake of that with the woman from Will and Grace?
They tried. I think they tried to make one, but it went to pilot, and that's about it. It never got aired. But Gavin and Stacey is a British sitcom about a Welsh girl who falls in love with a English guy, and vice versa. And yeah, it's
and where does that
old.
fit into the Star Wars universe?
That is, if I'm going to watch your fucking cartoons, you can learn a bit more about my culture and watch some Gavin and Stacey, homeboy.
It takes place
And then
between
we'll
episodes
talk Doctor
3 and
Who.
4 of Endor.
And then we'll talk Doctor Who, because 60th anniversary comes at the end of this year. We've got a 3-episode arc. David Tennant's back. And then we get Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor. So I'm going to expect you two fools to be up to speed of the about the Whoverse.
I'm just going to keep rewatching Amy episodes. She was my favorite ever.
That's a very nice Dalek. Well done.
It's a salt and pepper shaker.
In your office? Real useful there.
Just take out.
I think this one's the pepper.
Ah.
Well, literally, they were called the Pepper Pot robots. That was their nickname in the British media for the longest time. In this, when they were introduced in the 60s, everybody said that it's like, oh my god, they're little pepper pots.
Hey,
look at that! Well
This
done.
is the salt one.
That's very cool.
I think.
So, Paul, I consider this episode a success. One of my favorite people is going to try to watch one of my favorite shows. I could not ask for more from this episode. What do you think?
I considered it an abject failure because it's not going to get Rosario Dawson to want to go out with me.
Well, I think Cory Booker has something to say about that.
Or,
I think that might be a bigger. Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, when did that happen?
Over the summer, I think.
Oh, geez.
All right, you need to drop me out of this because I've got a beautiful wife waiting for me on the couch.
That is
We're going to spend our cold Los Angeles Sunday afternoon curled up in front of the fire.
That is absolutely fair. So we've convinced Marcus to give Rebels a go. If you think you have reasons of why Marcus should watch Clone Wars or Rebels, please annoy him on Twitter or annoy us on Twitter. All our social information is down there.
Any TV shows that you think I should be forcing these two Muppets to watch?
Same.
You tell me. Tell me. All right.
And we will see you next time on the BeeRPad. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. Paul Semel, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Out.